Generally calm people of Reddit, what made you lose your absolute shit that time? It's always felt like my parents never wanted me. I was a surprise honeymoon baby born 9 months and a day after their wedding. I was regularly screamed at for anything I did until I just started hiding. I was called the practice child my whole life. My younger siblings got way more love and attention, etc. In my teens they started taking in strays. If any neighborhood kids didn't want to go home, they could just be at our house all the time. Effectively, my mother would take my friends away from me to be her friends instead. One of which was a kid who picked on me constantly from the time I was 11. I guess they had that in common. That guy was kicked out of his dad's house and his mom's house when he was 20, so my parents took him in permanently. That killed me, but I always wanted their approval, so I was always calm and agreeable, always desperately trying to figure out how to get them to love me, so I went along with it. Years later, I'm married and have a son. This guy still lives with my parents. They continue to coddle and make excuses for him while criticizing me for whatever they feel like. One day, we're all at my parents' house and my son is being a goofy 2-year-old, which annoys the man-child living there, so he gets furious, picks my son up by his ankle and spanks him. My parents claimed not to have seen it. We went home. I couldn't sleep that night because I was so upset. The next morning, I made sure the guy and my mom would be at home, and why wouldn't he be there? And I went to confront them with my wife. I dumped everything I had been putting up with on them for about an hour, including asking how my mom could allow this jerk to hit my son. She maintained that it didn't happen, so I went through the roof. I ended up crying because of all the pent-up emotion, so my fantastic wife took over. She said we wouldn't be coming back if the guy still lived there, so he yelled that he would move out and he stormed off after saying he didn't have to listen to this. My parents convinced him not to move out shortly after we left. My mother expressed how disappointed she was that I didn't come to have a conversation, and only came to dump on them. That was her big takeaway from everything I said, that I wasn't being fair to them. We went to counseling with them later. For months, it validated everything I had felt, but they never stopped lying and being defensive. One counselor said we should be on Dr. Phil. The other counselor said my mom is incapable of empathy. Both counselors called my parents delusional. But of course my parents didn't take any of that seriously. At one point my dad asked me who does he think he is to judge us like that, as if he forgot that that's their job. Haven't spoken with them in almost a year, and life is so much better. My brother and I played travel sports for a few seasons as kids. One trip, I was at the pool with some of his teammates messing around in the water and the coach's kid was being a dick as usual. My brother was one of the smaller kids on his team, so the coach's son would fuck with him a lot. Most of the kids on my brother's team disliked him but didn't speak up so they wouldn't be next. He thought it would be funny to pick up my brother's drink right in front of him and spit into it. My dad taught me from a young age not to let anyone fuck with my brother or sister, so I got seriously pissed. I took a good running start and shoulder checked him into the pool. Since he had just gotten there, he hadn't taken his clothes off yet and cried because his phone and iPod got ruined. He literally ran out yelling, "I'm telling my dad." Well, that backfired, because everyone stuck up for my brother and the coach was not happy to find out what a shit that his son was being, so he was the only one to get in any trouble. I can remember that day like it was yesterday. I was home packing my stuff to get ready for when my husband was out of basic training. I never yell or even raise my voice to hardly anyone ever. My dad has always had a wicked temper, and my sister also had a knack for starting yelling matches with him. One night, she forgot to do something she was supposed to, and the yelling started again. I ignored it up until he called her stupid. It got under my skin, so I spoke up a little saying that he shouldn't call her that. He hollered back, "You are my daughters. I can talk to you however I want." That's when I snapped. I saw red for the first time in my life, and I completely lost it. I screamed back at him at how I was tired of him treating us like garbage when he lost his temper, at how we hid in the back room with my mom until he cooled off, and how all I wanted was to visit my family before I had to move over 12 hours away from them. I also threatened that if he ever wanted to see me again, then he needed to shut up and sit in the corner until he was done throwing a fit. I yelled at him for the first time in my life for a solid 30 minutes. I didn't stop until everything I had to say built over the years was out, and I saw him go from red-faced angry to what seemed to be guilt-ridden. When I finally stopped, he was quiet. He didn't say a word and walked away. Shortly after I moved out, he went to a doctor and has been put on some medication to help with his anger issues. Now he's super friendly, and I haven't heard him throw a tantrum like he used to in over 10 years now. He has never spoken poorly to me or my sister since then either. This happened in some club ages ago. I was bouncing around on the dance floor with everybody else and apparently stepped on some dude's foot who had been standing there with his posse of 2 or 3 other guys watching people. I shrugged and apologized, then turned around to leave. Right then somebody smacked me in the back of the head. Not hard, but too hard to ignore. I turned around still calm and said something like, "Look, I'm gonna walk this way. You guys stay here and nothing more needs to happen." Turned around again, got smacked in the head again. I was very much pissed off at that point. It didn't help that they looked at me all innocent. I couldn't even tell which one of them did it, so I just stuck my finger in the face of the dude whose foot I allegedly stepped on and recommended he don't do it again. Turned around once more, waiting to get smacked in the head again. This time they poured a glass of beer in my back. That's when I completely lost my shit. Threw myself around and went straight at the guy. I was in full rage mode, didn't care what happened next as long as that guy suffered. I could tell by the terrified look on his face he realized he had gone too far. His friends never stepped in to help him. After a while people separated us and that was that. I have no sympathy at all for people who resort to violence for solving their problems but feel no shame for having snapped in that situation. I think I did everything in my power to avoid what eventually happened. So earlier this year, my health insurance got messed up. I started making too much money to qualify for my state's Medicare, so Healthcare Gov requested a notification from SupremeComments to confirm I wasn't on it anymore. So in January, I called them to get said notification. They say yeah, you should get it in a couple weeks. It never comes. Unfortunately I had forgotten about it until Healthcare Gov sends me a message that they're going to raise my insurance costs if I don't get them the message in the next 2 weeks. So I called SupremeComments again and explained to them the situation. They once again claim they're going to send me the notice and don't. So now, after getting an extension from Healthcare Gov about this, I call up SupremeComments once more and attempt to explain the situation, politely requesting the cancellation notice. But the woman on the phone gets an attitude with me saying some stupid shit like you know this is the cancellation department, right? And I lost my ish. What the freak is your problem? I don't understand why the freak you can't just send me this effing letter. What's happening over there? Just look in the fucking file and cancel it. Yes, you goofy. I know this is the cancellation department. I want a notice that IT's cancelled. I must have scared the shit out of her because the next thing she said was, "I'll go get my supervisor who solved the problem in 10 minutes," and I got my cancellation notice 3 days later. I worked at a diner with an open kitchen. You can see us and we can see you. I'm the only cook during the lunch rush when I hear a lady shout hey. I look over and a lady sitting in a booth points at me and then does a very condescending come here motion with her finger. I thought something was wrong with her food, so I decide I can run out of the kitchen, leaving 4 orders on the grill, and see what I need to fix. She has no food on her table. She holds her blue soda cup out to me and asks, "What is this?" Excuse me, why is my root beer in a soda cup and not a mug? I don't know, I'm just the great another fucking idiot in this fucking place who doesn't know anything. She then proceeds to chew me out, because I, the cook, do not know why the server gave her root beer in a cup. We have special root beer mugs but the servers couldn't find them. Someone misplaced them. I apologize and head back into the kitchen while she's loudly talking crap about me to the next booth to find that all of my orders are ruined, and more had been coming in. It's already stressful working in a kitchen and that was the last straw. I went in back, started screaming and kicking the crap out of the walk-in cooler. When I went back out everyone was quiet and avoided eye contact. Even the lady with the issues still looked pretty mad though. I rushed through the orders and thank God she left without saying anything. I didn't get in trouble though since my manager was serving and had to deal with her as well. He understood. I was in charge of a rollover trainer once at a military training site. Think of a Humvee on an axle that spins, like a rollover accident. Part of the safety brief before anyone goes in is to empty their pockets of all items. Take any items on belt off. We have rubber items inside to simulate flying. We do this for safety's sake. Part of the training is we stop the trainer on its side roof, so the participants can get exposure to assisting the other passengers and exit the vehicle safely and quickly. It's been a long ass boring as shit day. It's got, and like all good army training, I am hungover and irritated. All officers, and they aren't listening for shit. We stop the exercise on the roof for a group, and they all exit except one who can't undo the set belt. I open the door, and reach in, and placed my hand on a dual-edged 4-inch boot knife. I absolutely lost my shit. I saw red, my ears burned, and I distinctly remember seeing one of the other instructors mouth "oh snap." I chewed out every fucking officer there, all of whose outranked me, many of whom outranked my commander. Didn't matter, as my position was safety officer. I went on a tirade. I turn around after it was done, and my best friend is fucking recording it on his phone. That prick showed that clip the rest of the week and for years after him. I miss that dude every day. Updates. Sadly, that video is long gone. I imagine yes, I am former military, gladly retired. In the 8th grade I decided to join the school wrestling team. I was overweight and not very good at wrestling, but I still tried. Every day after practice, while waiting for parents to pick us up, I would get picked on by any of a number of the other team members. One day one of the guys decided to take it to the next level, and punched me in the face 3 times. I stood there stunned with my ears ringing, and then rage took over. He was wearing a hoodie sweatshirt, and with my left hand I reached over and grabbed the hood, pulling it over his head so his face was pointing down, and held tight while delivering uppercuts to his face in rapid succession, while he tried to escape running backwards. I held on tight and kept hitting his face while the crowd watched me in amazement. After what seemed like around 15 straight punches to his face, I finally let go and he continued to run backward. He stopped running backward after a few seconds, then came running back towards me. I'm thinking, oh great, here we go again. He got about halfway back to me and let out a wail that sounded like a combined scream and wolf howl, and then dropped to the ground crying. I turned around to a crowd of wide-eyed and stunned bystanders, and walked to the door, while they tended to him. The next day he came to school with 2 black eyes swollen shut and bruises all over his face. The wrestling coach basically told the team to stop messing with me, and that was literally the last time I ever got into a physical fight. That was nearly 40 years ago. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm only 16, so I hope you didn't cringe from the editing. I hope we can get to 50,000 subscribers because I wouldn't be here without all of you. So thank you so much for your time and energy, and please subscribe.